Hello, a very warm welcome to a wet Sachsenring. A little bit of history here in the MotoGP eSport Championship as we have ourselves a first fully wet Grand Prix. How exciting. Jack Appleyard and Jack Ghost with you to talk you through the next 15 minutes to find out who will be on pole position ahead of race 3 of the 2021 Global Series. And this truly is a historical moment, Jack, and certainly provides quite a bit of excitement as well, with all the riders out on full wet tyres for the very first time in the MotoGP eSport Series.
Yeah, it certainly does. We're kind of stepping into unknown territory here. Wet track, as you can see, and it is very wet, in fact. Look at the spraying coming off the rear end there of Trastevere and Williams Christian. Certainly one that these guys, well, they're used to the wet. I imagine they don't do too much practicing in the wet, but when they heard that we were planning on doing the first ever Global Series event race in wet conditions, I'm sure they've got plenty of practice in. So smooth on the throttle, nice and easy on the brakes. These boys, they know what to do, and I'm sure that the wet conditions won't prove too much of a challenge for them in the end.
No, these guys, as you say, best in the world at what they do, so I'd be very, very surprised if any of them seem to struggle. Normally in the MotoGP series you get a few wet weather wonders, the guys that you just know are going to be fast when the rain comes down, but I'm not sure we'll see that here. I think it's going to be a similar sort of playing field to what we're used to with the fastest guys, your world champions, the likes of Adrian, Trastevere and Andrew ZH at the sharp end, and those guys that normally struggle to mix it at the front, although we're going fairly quick themselves, will find themselves in the usual spots. I'd be surprised if we see anyone really come through and shock us.
Yeah, you'd imagine so, Jack, but it would be nice to see the likes of Mr. TFTW, who is, well, he's absolutely rapid, but he's just that couple of tenths off the pace of the top boys. But it would be nice to see him, Mr. T, someone like Dark Bright, and, well, who else in there? Maybe Ricardo Bottaro as well, coming a bit closer to the sharp end of qualifying. So they're on to their first timed laps then. We're looking at, who was that on the Petronas Yamaha? Fuchs. Obviously, Fuchs stepping in, rode Repsol Honda last year, this time on Petronas Yamaha. But don't worry, absolutely no change because Balance Performance is on. So that thing will feel just as comfortable as he did on the Repsol Honda last year.
There's another new face as well, Joel Clay, stepping in to the factory Aprilia seats for the remainder of 2021. Great to see him back out here. Of course, went very well in last year's Rising Stars series and has been given the opportunity to fill in this year for the remainder of 2021, as I said, with the Aprilia Racing Team Gresini squad, and doing a good job so far. He's, of course, red in the opening two sectors, as is everyone else, because no time set just as of yet. First man to set the time will be Fuchs, a 1:25, instantly beaten by the Suzuki of Williams Christian. Trastevere, quarter of a second adrift in second. World champion Adrian there in third. Who's going to be next over the line? It is going to be the Brit Jack Hammer aboard the KTM, and he goes top by 3/10 as well. Great opening lap from the number 67. Still a couple of lads to come across the line. Here's Piero Ricciuti down the waterfall, the aptly named waterfall in these conditions, into the final corner shortly, onto the brakes for one last time before flicking it left. The man, of course, who moved on to the podium in his very first race of 2021. A great start to life for Piero Ricciuti, and that's a good lap from him. He goes third, with Andrew ZH jumping straight to the top of the timesheet. Was 4/10 clear, now 1.5 clear with Ricardo Bottaro. It's a Ducati 1-2, the factory and the satellite Ducatis 1-2. What a great start for them, for the two Italians as well. That's a great lap from Bottaro.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, we did say, didn't we, that we'd quite like to see some of the less usual names at the top in this session, and it seems we've got Ricardo Bottaro doing just that. Good to see Jack Hammer and Piero Ricciuti showing once again that those two boys have certainly got the pace. As Jack said, Piero Ricciuti picked up a maiden podium last time out at race 1 of the 2021 Global Series and followed it up with a 4th as well, so pretty good. And obviously Jack Hammer had some bad luck while he was running, I believe, 2nd or 3rd very early on in one of the races last time out. So Dark Bright then coming round now into the final turn. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I will absolutely butcher it, but he's going to stand it up on the fat part of the tyre, get it singing, and fly it across the line. What's the time going to be? He goes 9th, 1.477 off. So certainly a bit of time to come for Dark Bright just yet on the Tech3 KTM.
Yeah, good start to life for Dark Bright. Up to 9th, only at 1.5 seconds adrift. They easily can chip away at that over the next 9.5 minutes. So it looks like everyone just taking a breather after that first flurry of laps. Incidentally, if we're looking at who's had the form so far in 2021 when it comes to qualifying, Andrew ZH looking for a second pole position after taking the opening one of 2021 in Portimao. No surprise to see Jack Hammer up there as well. He, of course, was second on the grid for Portimao with Trastevere just behind. When we move on to Mugello, at the Italian circuit, it was a little bit different. We didn't see the same names up there. In particular, Adrian recovered from a 6th spot onto the 2nd row in the opening qualifying, but he did recover well.
He did.
And of course, Andrew ZH was on pole there as well, so apologies. This is looking for a hat-trick of pole positions for our 2019 world champion. I was just trying to recollect. A lot has happened since then.
Yeah.
But for Andrew ZH, the biggest thing is he needs to turn his one-lap form into a little bit of race form, into some points, because despite having had 2 pole positions, he walked away from the opening round with a 5th and a 3rd, which I'm sure he will admit he was hoping for better.
Yeah, the 3rd place was an interesting one because obviously it came at a track which should pretty much suit him really at Mugello. Has won there in the past. I do believe he won there on his championship charge in 2019. But it's just been an interesting one with Andrew ZH because it's kind of seemed that he just doesn't quite have that 2 or 3 tenths he needs in race trim to be able to close the gap once the guys at the front really get going and into their rhythm. But certainly podium last time out, a little bit more confidence, and he did actually say it was nice to be back on the podium. So watch out for Andrew ZH. He may well be one to watch, particularly in wet conditions, because it is a little bit different. They may well be very much used to it and very comfortable, but it certainly will be a little bit trickier here. So Joel Clay then, we just turned back to him on the Aprilia. He's red through the first split. This means he's under the fastest lap time so far. See if he can carry it on as we go into the never-ending lefts here in Sachsenring. He's got a few guys following him on. Only 3 guys on live laps at the moment, so everyone else just on an out lap, building up, making sure their tyre temperatures and brake temperatures, of course, because in 2021 MotoGP game, you've also got your brake temperatures to worry about as well. So Joel Clay then, PB through the second split as well. It seems that Fuchs' lap has gone away, unfortunately for him. Mr. T's back in the lobby, that's good to see. I don't think he'll be able to take part though, which is a little bit unfortunate. Obviously some internet issues there for the man from Australia. Coming down then to the final sector, Ricardo Bottaro ready to build up to another lap, and he's only got to find the 10th and a half, and he could steal that hat-trick of pole positions away from the 2019 world champ.
He could do. It would be a bit of a surprise as well. Best qualifying so far for Bottaro came in Mugello. 6th spot for him. He was 7th in Portimao. You can see he's winding up for a lap here. He went as wide as possible at the final corner to drag as much speed up the hill over the line. And here we go then. Another flying lap commences for Ricardo Bottaro. Andrew ZH behind him, he'll be hoping to improve. And already we're seeing a couple of red sectors out there. The Suzuki of Williams Christian, the Repsol Honda of Adrian, the brothers both looking to improve, as is Piero Ricciuti. Ricardo Bottaro goes red as well. But it's spicing up here, 6 minutes to go. And we are definitely going to see a bit of a shuffle on the timing sheets because Andrew ZH is also red through that opening sector, as is Trastevere as well. Look at this.
Christian's lap's gone away.
Oh, disaster for the Suzuki man. We did have 6 riders up on the provisional pole time. We now have 5. Andrew ZH, Bottaro, Ricciuti, who else? Adrian and Trastevere as well.
Yep, so then last 5 minutes and it really is starting to crack on a little bit. We've got a mini qualifying session within the qualifying session right now, and it's all of the big hitters going for it. Incidentally, Joel Clay on that last lap did jump up to P3, but tell you what, it doesn't look like he's going to hang on to that for too much longer. So Ricardo Bottaro, Adrian crosses the line, 2 tenths up, takes provisional pole. Ricardo Bottaro He's on his lap now, coming down into the final corner. Not quite as much of a slingshot line that time, carrying the corner speed. Piero Ritucci goes pole by 3/10,
wow.
and Vaccaro goes second place. Not bad from the two boys there, the two rookies.
Wow, what a lap from Piero Ritucci. Here comes Andrew ZH though, and he goes top by 0.3 of a second. What a lap that is. He's improved by nearly a full second there. Incredible stuff from Andrew ZH. Trastevere comes across the line. He can only manage 4th. That is some serious speed from Andrew ZH there. 0.3 clear. He has mastered the Sachsenring. He's mastered those wet conditions. 4.5 minutes remaining. And I tell you what, the other 9 riders out there are going to have to find something special if they want to take this hat-trick of pole positions away from the factory Ducati man.
Yeah, that's going to take some doing to beat that one. Incidentally, Adrian, the reigning world champion, who went provisional pole only, what, 1 minute ago, is now already down to the middle of the second row and 6.5 off, no less. So Adrian not quite got the outright pace, but as we do say, well, he brought it back for a fantastic race victory last time from, I believe it was the second row. And Andrew ZH, sorry, we do know that in race trim he's maybe not quite as sharp as he is in qualifying.
But I'm sure in the however many week break we've had since round 1, he's been battling away, churning the laps out, making sure that he gets those starts right, because let's not forget that the start is so important as he comes into pit lane. 3.5 minutes remaining. I think we will likely see another flurry of flying laps from these guys before the session ends. But yeah, talking about the start, so vital. If you can get a good start and you can settle into a position inside the top 3, the top 2, you give yourself such an advantage, because the rest of these guys are so similar when it comes to churning out the laps. It's very difficult to gain any kind of advantage, gain any sort of edge on anyone else to then be able to dive up the inside. So the start, without doubt, the most pivotal point, as we're seeing in MotoGP now as well.
Well, I was just about to say, Jack, obviously Adrian has been attending the school of starts from Marc Marquez, hasn't he? Because down last time in Portimao, he had a storming start. I think he came from 6th all the way up to 2nd or 3rd by the time they dived down into turn 1. So expect him to do the same here. Obviously, Marc, when he went on and won this race only, well, a couple, what was it, 5-6 weeks ago now, something like that. Won here in Germany. Turn 1 was really where he did it. Came from a few places down on the grid and was up into 2nd already, so got the business done early on.
Yeah, it's finding that balance between aggression and also having respect for your other competitors as well, because it's very easy, especially in this game, when obviously there are no consequences for boffing someone off into the gravel trap. However, the only consequences would be you would get an earful from the guy that you've just T-boned into the gravel trap. So these guys know that, and they play it hard and fair as well, because, you know, at the end of the day, in this race coming up, if Trastevere, for example, the man on screen now, was to bosh Adrian into the gravel trap, I'm sure Adrian would have that one in his back pocket and think, well, if you're going to play that game, then I can also play it.
That certainly happens when me and you play this game, as well as our good colleague Elliot York. We certainly like to biff each other into the gravel at every available opportunity.
We're not as respectful.
No, not quite. We take it a bit more on the casual side in terms of this game. And we're certainly nowhere near the speed of these guys either. These guys are incredibly fast. So then, the building up for their final time attacks. 1 minute 15 on the clock, so it will be a 1-lap dash. Go for it. Put it all on the line for pole position. And we'll see who can come out on top. Obviously, Riccardo Guttaro has looked pretty good in these wet conditions. Ducati obviously working well. So we'll see what he can do. Trastevere and Adrian, it's not a disaster for them starting 4th and 5th. We've seen them come from worse and do better. But they'll certainly want to be getting onto the front row just to make life that little bit easier for them.
You often see with these guys for qualifying as well, it's not very MotoGP-esque in the fact that they're holding up and waiting for a toe off someone else.
Although
Piero Ritucci is doing that at the moment. It is very Formula One-esque in the fact that they leave everyone and each other a gap. Because often having someone in front just takes away a little bit of the concentration and can take away a little bit of the performance level. Not that it's bothering Piero Ricciuti, as Bottaro backs it into the opening corner here. Here we go then. 10 seconds on the clock. That's going to tick down very shortly. The checkered flag will be out. All 10 riders onto their final flying laps. Who's going to take pole position here in the Sachsenring? Let's find out. It's going to take something special to topple Andrew ZH, but both Trastevere and Williams Christian down in 9th at the moment, 1.5 seconds adrift. That cancelled lap time for his second flying lap could prove costly. Let's see how he manages. Oh, there we go. Andrew ZH taking the checkered flag, so it's game over for him. He's going to have an anxious wait to see if it will be a hat-trick of pole positions. So far,
and it may
red
well not.
And up in the second sector is Ricciuti, Bottaro, Trastevere, Joel Clay and Williams Christian. 5 riders all challenging for top spot. We're into the final sector here with Ricciuti and Bottaro. Nothing separating the Italian rookies here as we dive down into the Saxon curve for the final time. Bottaro looks very good here. He may have been off through that first sector, but he looks to have dragged some time back. Oh, he's just
close
onto the grass there, nearly exceeding track limits as Trastevere takes pole. Trastevere takes it, a 10th clear. Here comes Bottaro though, only good enough for second, but only just 0.02 of a second separating them as Ricciuti crashes out. It's going to be 6 at best for him. Where's Williams Christian? He's come across the line. 5th for him. Wait for Jack Hammer. He's going to be the final man to come across the line. Disappointment for the KTM man at the moment, but he jumps up to 5th with his final flying lap. So for the first time this year, it won't be Andrew ZH on pole. That honour goes the way of Trastevere. It's all Italian on the front row though, with Bottaro and Andrew ZH joining him. What a race it's going to be.